Welcome, everybody, to our deep dive into Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Ooh, exciting.
Get ready, because we're about to unlock some serious strategic wisdom from this classic military treatise, right?
That's right.
It might surprise you to learn just how relevant Sun Tzu's ideas still are today.
Mm-hmm.
Centuries old, but they've even influenced modern strategists. Let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
First things first, we've got to address the elephant in the room.
Oh, okay.
The mystery around Sun Tzu himself.
Right.
Was he actually a real person?
Hmm.
Or just some legendary figure?
Yeah, good question.
Lionel Giles' introduction to the art of war actually points out some interesting inconsistencies.
It does, yeah.
It makes you wonder.
For sure.
Like, for instance, the Zhuan.
Okay.
That's a major chronicle from Sun Tzu's supposed era.
Right.
Doesn't even mention him.
No, it doesn't.
You'd think a brilliant general would have gotten at least a shout-out, right?
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Strange, right?
Very strange.
But then we have the Shih Chi biography.
Okay, yeah.
This one claims Sun Tzu served King Hou of Wu, even trained the king's concubines
Really?
to demonstrate his military principles. Can you imagine witnessing that demonstration?
Oh, wow, that would have been something
Look at
else.
these.
The concubines as, like, a military unit?
Exactly.
That's wild.
And get this, the art of war itself.
Yeah.
It references the Wu-Yu conflict.
Oh, interesting.
Might mean it was written later than we initially thought.
That changes things a bit, doesn't it?
Looks like we've got a historical puzzle on our hands.
We do.
Definitely adds some intrigue, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating.
But, regardless of whether Sun Tzu was a real general or just a figure of legend, no doubt about it, his ideas have had a major impact on military thinking for centuries.
Yeah.
One of his most famous sayings,
Let's hear it.
all warfare is based on deception.
Mm-hmm.
And the remarkable thing is,
Yeah.
this wasn't just some ancient wisdom, Even Wellington, known for his, straightforward tactics on the battlefield, he was a master of deception.
He was.
Really makes you think.
It does.
So I'm curious, what are some specific examples from the text?
Oh, there are some good ones
Yeah.
that really illustrate how Sun Tzu advocated for this deceptive approach. Well, he advises us to appear weak when we're strong,
Okay.
and vice versa.
Interesting.
He even suggests making the enemy think we're far away when we're actually close,
Oh, wow.
and vice versa.
That's clever.
It's all about keeping your opponent guessing, disrupting their ability to plan effectively.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like a high-stakes game of poker, isn't it?
It is.
Bluffing, misdirection, those could be just as important as the card you're holding.
Exactly.
Sun Tzu really understood that warfare, it's as much a psychological battle as it is a physical one.
He did, yeah.
And you know what? This reminds me of something else.
Oh, what's that?
Sun Tzu's emphasis on strategy over brute force. He was all about winning with minimal losses, right?
Absolutely.
The ideal scenario for Sun Tzu,
Tell me.
winning without fighting at all, or
Mhm.
capturing cities without those long sieges.
That makes sense.
He was a big proponent of swift, decisive victories. Ones that preserved resources and minimized casualties.
Yes.
And to achieve this, he introduced these really interesting concepts.
Okay, lay them on me.
Cheng and Shi,
Qing and Shi.
the direct and indirect approaches in warfare.
Ah, I see. So how did Sun Tzu differentiate between these two?
Well, the direct approach, Cheng, that's your straightforward head-on attack.
Okay.
You're using your strength to try to overpower the enemy.
Makes sense.
But the indirect approach, Qi,
Yeah.
it's more about maneuvering, surprise, and exploiting your enemy's weaknesses.
Oh, so like flanking maneuvers, things like that.
Exactly. Surprise attacks, psychological warfare, all that good stuff.
Ah, I see. So it's about choosing the right tactic for the right situation, right?
Right.
Rather than always defaulting to brute force. Exactly. A skilled general, they understand both Qing and Qi,
Right.
and they know how to use them effectively to keep the enemy off balance. Lord Roberts, for example,
Yeah.
his night march in the Afghan War.
Yeah.
That's a classic example of using indirect tactics to achieve a decisive victory.
That's a really good example. It highlights how important it is to be adaptable
Yeah,
and think outside the box.
definitely.
But, Sun Tzu didn't just focus on outsmarting the enemy.
No.
He also really stressed the importance of knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He did. Understanding your own capabilities and limitations, that's just as crucial as knowing your opponent's. In fact, one of Sun Tzu's most powerful quotes addresses this directly.
Okay, hit me with it.
If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle.
Wow, that's a pretty stark warning. Overconfidence and ignorance, they can be just as dangerous as any enemy.
Exactly. And this is where his concept of the 5 essentials for victory comes in.
Okay, what are those?
These are principles like knowing when to fight and when not to fight,
Gotcha.
choosing your battles wisely, and ensuring unity and high morale within your army.
Makes sense. So speaking of knowing what's going on, Sun Tzu was a big believer in spies, right?
He absolutely was. Espionage, that's a major theme in the art of war.
It always seemed kind of intriguing to me, that whole cloak and dagger world.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
What kind of insights did he offer about the role of terrain in shaping a battle?
He had quite a bit to say about terrain, identified 6 types, each with its own unique challenges and opportunities.
6. Okay, break it down for me.
All right. We've got accessible terrain,
Okay.
entangling terrain,
Yeah.
temporizing terrain, narrow passes, precipitous heights, and positions at a distance from the enemy.
Wow, so knowing the terrain is like having another weapon in your arsenal then.
Absolutely. Sun Tzu offers specific advice on how to utilize each type of terrain to your advantage.
Like what?
For example, he advises avoiding fighting on dispersive ground and not halting on facile ground. He stresses the importance of seizing the high ground whenever possible and carefully scouting and securing the area around your camp.
So it's not just about knowing the terrain, it's about knowing how to use it strategically, right?
Exactly. Sun Tzu recognized that the battlefield itself can be a powerful ally.
Or a dangerous foe, depending on how you approach it.
Right.
So knowing the terrain is crucial,
Yeah.
but even on favorable ground, I mean, think about it, internal weaknesses, those can really lead to disaster.
Absolutely.
Sun Tzu, he calls these the 6 calamities.
Right.
What are we talking about here?
These calamities are basically self-inflicted wounds that can, cripple an army.
Okay.
We're talking flight, insubordination, collapse, ruin, disorganization, and rout.
That's a pretty daunting list.
Yeah, and what's interesting is they often stem from internal weaknesses and poor leadership rather than enemy action.
So it's not just about outsmarting your opponent, it's about having your own house in order.
Exactly.
Can you give us some examples of how these calamities might manifest?
Sure, imagine like a project team where there's a complete lack of communication and coordination.
Oh, I've been there.
Deadlines are missed, tasks fall through the cracks, and everyone's pointing fingers. That's a classic example of disorganization leading to failure.
Ouch, yeah. I've definitely been on teams like that, and it's not pretty.
It's tough.
Feels like you're fighting an uphill battle from the start.
Exactly. Or think about like a company where employees have lost faith in their leadership.
Oh, yeah.
Morale plummets, productivity tanks, and talented people, they start jumping ship.
It's a recipe for disaster.
That's a recipe for collapse, just like Sun Tzu described.
So it sounds like these calamities are all about a breakdown in trust and a lack of clear direction, whether we're talking about an army or like a modern organization.
That's a great point.
And it highlights the importance of strong leadership, clear communication, and building a culture of trust and accountability, right?
Absolutely. If you can prevent those internal fractures, you're much more likely to succeed, no matter what challenges you face.
Speaking of knowing what's going on, Sun Tzu, he was a big believer in spies, right?
He absolutely was. Espionage, that's a major theme in the art of war.
Yeah, that whole cloak and dagger world of espionage, it always seems so intriguing to me.
It is. And Sun Tzu outlines 5 types of spies.
5. Okay, I'm all ears.
All right. We've got local spies, inward spies, converted spies, doomed spies, and surviving spies.
Wow. Okay, there's a whole taxonomy of spies.
Mm-hmm.
Each type plays a unique role in gathering intelligence and deceiving the enemy, I'm guessing.
You got it.
Okay, break it down for us. What makes each one unique?
Let's start with the local spies. These are individuals who are recruited from the enemy's population.
Okay.
They can provide valuable insights into the terrain, local customs, and even troop movements.
Makes sense. What about inward spies?
Inward spies. Those are officials within the enemy's government who have been, shall we say, persuaded to work for you.
Turned, right.
Exactly. Often through persuasion or promises of power.
Sounds like these first 2 types are all about leveraging existing networks and turning the enemy's resources against them.
Exactly. But now, things get a bit more complex with converted spies.
Okay, how so?
These are enemy spies who have been captured
Oh, wow.
and persuaded to work for you.
That's a bold move.
It is.
What about doomed spies?
Doomed spies are sent to spread disinformation, knowing they'll likely be caught and executed by the enemy.
That's pretty ruthless. I can see how that tactic might have been effective in ancient warfare, but do you think it has any relevance in the modern world?
It's definitely a more ethically ambiguous tactic, but the underlying principle of disinformation is still very much in play. Think about the spread of propaganda and fake news in today's digital landscape. It's a form of modern-day espionage aimed at influencing public opinion and sowing discord.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The battleground has shifted from physical terrain to the digital realm, but the tactics of deception and manipulation are still alive and well.
Absolutely. And finally, we have surviving spies. These are your classic intelligence gatherers, the ones who infiltrate the enemy's camp, observe their formations, and report back on their strengths and weaknesses.
The eyes and ears on the ground, providing crucial intel for strategic decision-making.
Precisely. And Sun Tzu believed that a skilled general cultivates and rewards their spies generously. Their information is vital for making informed decisions.
It all comes back to that idea of knowledge being power.
It does.
If you know what your opponent is up to before they make a move, you have a huge advantage. It's like that old saying, forewarned is forearmed. But Sun Tzu takes it to a whole new level.
He definitely does. He emphasizes not just being prepared, but shaping the battlefield to your advantage, creating conditions that make victory almost inevitable. He understood that the ability to gather intelligence, analyze it effectively, and act decisively is crucial for success in any competitive situation.
And that applies not just to warfare, but to business, politics, even our personal lives, right?
Absolutely. Sun Tzu's insights, they transcend the battlefield.
Think about the battlefields in your own life, your career, your relationships, personal challenges you might be facing.
Exactly. So, for example, if you are negotiating a job offer, you could use Sun Tzu's principles to assess your strength, anticipate the employer's needs, and position yourself strategically to get the best possible outcome.
That's a great example. Or if you're dealing with a conflict in a relationship, you could apply Sun Tzu's teachings on understanding different perspectives, choosing your battles wisely, and finding common ground to resolve the situation peacefully.
Right. And this makes me think about that quote where Sun Tzu says, "The greatest victory is that which requires no battle." How does that translate to a modern context?
That's a really powerful idea. What do you think?
I think it speaks to the power of proactive problem solving, conflict resolution, and building strong collaborative relationships. If you can address issues early on, communicate effectively, and find win-win solutions, you can often avoid unnecessary conflict and achieve your goals more smoothly.
It's not about being aggressive or dominating others. It's about being strategic, insightful, and ultimately more effective in achieving your goals.
Exactly.
That's a really empowering message.
It is, and that's the beauty of Sun Tzu's work. It's not a rigid set of rules,
Right.
but a flexible framework for thinking about strategy in any context.
That's really helpful. It seems like Sun Tzu's work, it's less about conquering your enemies and more about mastering yourself.
You're absolutely right. He puts a lot of emphasis on cultivating the right mindset for strategic thinking.
So what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, he's constantly stressing the importance of things like calmness, patience, the ability to see the bigger picture,
Right.
which is, especially relevant today. I mean, things feel so chaotic and fast-paced, right?
Yeah, totally.
He reminds us to slow down, think things through, avoid those impulsive decisions.
Oh yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment, make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. It's like he's urging us to take a step back,
Yeah.
approach things with a cool head.
Exactly. He also emphasizes adaptability, being able to adjust your plans as circumstances change.
Right, because things rarely go according to plan, right?
Rarely, if ever. And this is just as relevant on those, ancient battlefields as it is in the ever-changing landscape of modern life.
It's like that famous quote, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." You always have to be ready to improvise.
Exactly. Sun Tzu understood that rigidity, it can be a fatal flaw in any strategy.
Interesting.
He encouraged flexibility, creativity, a willingness to learn and adapt as you go. He believed that continuous learning and self-improvement, those are essential for any leader or strategist.
Yeah, that's a message that really resonates today. In a world where everything's constantly evolving, you have to be a lifelong learner to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And Sun Tzu, he provides us with a framework for that learning process. He encourages us to be keen observers, gather information, analyze patterns, and constantly refine our understanding of the situation at hand.
So it's almost like he's providing us with a blueprint for becoming a master strategist, not just in warfare, but in life itself.
You got it. His work offers profound insights into, well, human nature, decision-making, the pursuit of success. And even though his ideas are centuries old, they feel incredibly relevant to the challenges we face today.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the enduring wisdom of Sun Tzu. Thinking of the modern applications of his work, I'm struck by his emphasis on information as a weapon.
That's a great point. The world of espionage, it has definitely evolved since Sun Tzu's time, but the fundamental principles he outlined, those are still very much in play.
Right, we don't have warlords sending secret agents to infiltrate enemy camps anymore, but we do have intelligence agencies, cyber warfare units, corporate espionage rings. It's happening all over the globe.
Exactly. The battleground has shifted to the digital realm, but the core principles, they remain the same. Information is a powerful weapon, and the ability to gather intelligence, analyze data, and anticipate your opponent's moves, it's crucial.
It's a digital battlefield out there.
Yeah.
Hackers, data breaches, information warfare, it's happening constantly. So whether you're a business leader, a political strategist, or just someone navigating the complexities of modern life, understanding these principles of information warfare, that can give you a serious edge.
Absolutely. We might not all need to master the art of training a network of spies, but we can certainly benefit from Sun Tzu's emphasis on information gathering, critical thinking, and strategic decision-making.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job exploring the key ideas of Sun Tzu's art of war. We've uncovered some fascinating historical anecdotes, even connected his teachings to our modern world. So, as we wrap things up here, what are some of the key takeaways you hope our listener will walk away with?
Well, I think Sun Tzu reminds us that strategy, it's about much more than brute force. It's about observation, planning, adaptability, and understanding both your opponent and yourself. And true victory, it lies not just in overcoming obstacles, but in shaping the very conditions of success.
That's powerful. This has been a truly fascinating exploration of a timeless work. As we leave our listener today, what's one final thought-provoking question they can ponder as they go about their day?
Think about this. What are the battlefields in your own life? How can you apply Sun Tzu's principles of strategy, self-knowledge, and adaptability to achieve your goals and navigate the challenges you face?
That's a great question to leave our listener with. Encourages us to think strategically about our own lives and apply these ancient principles to modern challenges. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of war. We'll see you next time.